Now it's the right time, I felt, to kind of tell them, listen, I've entertained you, now listen to me. This is what we need to change in India. And I think most Indians believe that a lot of things need to change, but there are very few unifying forces. There are very few voices of reason that are coming in there. Most people are, the politicians have lost a lot of trust, and people doubt them. And then we have maybe people like spiritual gurus, which we have too many in our country. But they are not able to, they are able to tell you how to live well and nicely, and they're doing that. But how to change the country, how to change the economy, they're not experts on that. So I felt I have worked. When I was in Goldman Sachs, I was advising many governments as part of a team on their ratings and things like that. So I thought, let me bring that back now. Enough fun. That is, now I was a pariah in this intellectual space. Because, Indians are very intelligent. Too intelligent we are. That is the problem. Like Russians, they say, too many chess players. What do you do with so much intelligence? We don't know, right? And the intellectuals here are too intelligent. And they were controlling the whole, dialogue. The editorial pages, the TV debates, everything. There is a set of people who are very well educated in good liberal arts schools in India, abroad, and they know how the country should be run, which is basically to be run by them, right? And they're not listening to the people, because obviously that's not their approach. It is not their approach to go, bottom up. There are obviously newspapers in this country which know that if this guy comes and writes for us, people are going to read it, because people read his books and movies. So there are luckily some newspapers who don't have such elitist hang-ups, who are just basically smart when it comes to business. And those newspapers tend to be the biggest newspapers, because they know what they're doing. So I thought I'm going to get to that space. So I started writing editorials, but there was a game changing required in that. The idea was to put very serious issues in a very simple and insightful manner, but very simple. Anybody can read. It's not like it's an editorial page you can't read, right? And the game could be changed, and this is around that time where social networks emerged. And today, and I'm going to separately talk about this, social networks is a key part of my strategy, because normally editorials by definition are very one-sided. I write, you read, end of story. It's no longer the case, because on the online versions, most of the youth of the country reads the online newspaper. Those who read, either they don't read newspapers, or if they read it on their phone or on their thing. They don't pick up the newspaper and read. Have you ever seen a young Indian read a newspaper? Only oldies like us read. I mean, I'm still young, but I'm saying very young college kids, they like to read on their phones. It's okay. Yeah, they could read the sports pages, they'll read the Bollywood. They do read, but it's less. But this is much more, because it's interactive. If they like an article, they can share it to their friends on Facebook right there. If they want to comment, they can comment on it. So the point is, it is my column, but it is just a starting point for discussion. It is not saying, I say this, do this. It is, tell me where I'm wrong. That approach. And the idea was to move to Hindi, because most English writers will only write in English. They can't be seen even speaking in Hindi, because it's bad for their image. So it's a strange situation where you have Indians who are regarded by society, but they don't want to speak the Indian language, which is obviously not very good, and they are not going to have that. So I said, my films are in Hindi, my books are in English, let me get to Hindi also. The stimulus came from, there was a rising concern. Again, there is a lot of awareness in the middle classes that things need to change. And you've seen it in the Anna Hazare movement, you've seen it in many, how the scams get attention, how the Delhi horrific incident got so much attention, because there is a lot of people who care now. Of course, not enough. Most people will still get on with their lives, but there's a large number of people who care versus say 10 years ago. So they needed a voice. They needed something to change. And now you have these editorial pages in papers which are prime real estate in some ways, because it's going to everyone's house, but they are isolating. They are like very elitist, very intellectual, and whereas there is a whole set of people out there clamoring to be heard, clamoring to be expressed. And I thought, let me get this. Again, a lot of skeptics, but it works. So I write for the Sunday, like Times of India, which is the biggest English paper here, possibly in the world also, because we have so many people, so we can be. And then the Dainik Bhaskar is a Hindi paper, and then a couple of others, Assamese, Marathi, Gujarati, those all carry my columns now. And that's got nothing to do with entertainment, really. It is all kinds of national issues, politics. Today, for example, has come on Women's Day or things like that. The impact of columns is different to measure, right? In books you measure how many you've sold, in films you measure the box office. Columns are about impact, right? Columns are impact. So now, because this is such a wide reach, a lot of politicians react. Normally they will not react to columns, but if I write a column in which this is a very strong stance, they sometimes do react that, okay, I agree or I don't agree, which means there is some impact. There's strong public opinion influence, many cases, certain policies. Maybe you've heard of for example, there was a GAAR, General Anti-Avoidance Rules, which was a taxation policy proposed by the government, which was very draconian and therefore so bad that it would discourage investment in the country. So I could use the platform along with a couple of others. Of course, in this battle I am not alone. There are some other columnists who think like me, and then we all battled to kind of create opinion that this is bad. Now it was a very tough fight, because most common people in India feel, yeah, good, tax the foreign companies, it's good, just tax the hell out of them. But we don't realize that if we do things like that, they won't even come here, they have a choice. So, that's just an example. Or aviation policy, where government was always helping out Air India. It doesn't so much now, because the aviation minister, he's actually IIT graduate, and he said, I will help. He says, I know that I don't need to help them. I shouldn't be helping them out, because there is no accountability. But you have to create a mood that I find support, because their unions will come and strike. They will sit in front of my office, and the media will cover it and portray me as the villain. And what can I do? Just easier way for me is to just write a bailout check. I can do it, but you guys need to help me do the right thing. And those things do happen nowadays. And it's not like they're telling me what to do or I'm telling them what to do. It's just that if we all agree, let's work together to kind of make it more accountable. And it has helped my brand become more intellectual. When I started, I was 29. So it's okay, you can write love stories, campus stories. But as I get older, it'll be nice if people take me a little seriously. It's kind of silly otherwise. So it has, when you write columns, suddenly, like I said, you become a little more intellectual, which is nice. And it has given me a spin-off book also. What Young India Wants is not a novel, it was a book of all my columns, essays, and then therefore that linked back to the books, and it all. My entrepreneurship is about how many Indians I'm reaching. I started in 2004. You've never seen a Chetan Bhagat ad, because there is no Chetan Bhagat ad, right? There is only word of mouth marketing. That's the best form, as most of you know. And just on that, and these bubbles which I make around me are because it's all moving around. It's not just books, like I said, it's not just author. Even in terms of revenues, books are like some 30% of revenues today. That's it. So films, columns, and talks like this. Of course, this is a smallish group of senior people, but sometimes I've given talks to, say, students or people at large, like 10,000 people. And social networks, which I'm going to separately talk about, and internet. All this combines to give, if you call the CB reader or the CB audience, an experience which they will not get from other authors. And that is why they're all with me for so many years. They are not just getting a book, they are getting to be part of something bigger. If they follow my book, follow my entire work, it's a 360 degree, I'm trying to touch them in their life, trying to entertain them, trying to shape their thoughts, trying to shape their opinion, just trying to be that guiding, way of thinking, which is missing perhaps in society, because we don't have role models that many, right? Politicians don't have trust. The only role models are sportsmen and Bollywood actors, which are very fantastic at their fields, but their domain expertise is very limited, right? They can't tell you how to lead your life or how to think about the country. They'll be like, I can teach you how to bat, I can teach you how to stay fit, but beyond that it's limited. So therefore, this has now reached 40 to 50 million Indians. It's a big number to shape public opinion. These are all educated people, more high end of society, so therefore you can shape a lot. But we are 1.2 billion. So there's long way to go for me, right? My challenges are how will I reach rural India, for example? How will I be relevant to them? It's big if, it's a big challenge. I have to try and do that. Strategies are, I'm trying to evolve a strategy around it. Let's see if it is possible or not. But so far, from somebody said, what is this hostel book you've written, to here, I feel confident that maybe from here I can scale it up further and reach more and more and more, right? These are some of the lessons for game changing. Like I said, it's not just about my story, it's about how you guys can do it in your life. First of all, you have to study the current game. It's not like I come in there and I just say, I'm going to change everything. You have to know the game very well. You have to know what's happening in your industry better than others. But this question, what's changing? What will be your adaptation stimulus? It's not like you have to be a genius and something will pop in your head. The thing that what is changing, and if that change you cannot spot, there's a problem. But once you spot that change, the answers come, you know, and you got to take some risks. Like I said, it's full of risk, this path. Doing that Shubharan song, it just kind of tells you how different, how many risks in just one song. So it's always, when I started Columns, I had a big reputation as a writer who's successful, who does Bollywood. I could have fallen flat on my face trying to do editorials, and people would have said, see, when it comes to logical reasoning or real issues, he's stupid. But you got to take that risk. And therefore it requires a very strong pitch. Whether to your internal bosses, to your internal clients, external clients, you're trying to propose something very different, learn how to pitch it. Just because you have these brilliant ideas doesn't mean people are going to buy them. They will not buy them, right? And that's where the separate skill is required to sell your proposals. The Three Idiots became a huge hit, but it doesn't mean that when I went to those guys and said, make a movie on my book, they just bought it. They're like, what is this? How can we make it? Okay, let's make it, it'll be a niche film. Till the release day, the director and all, everybody was feeling, it's a multiplex film, you know. It'll do well in some big cities, but it's not because it's about an engineering college. How is that relevant to India? So it's just the pitch level required for something like this is very big. There are some pitfalls of this strategy. It's not a win-win. It's not something that will always happen. You win big and you lose big. It's very simple, you know. My first film, Hello, which I don't talk about much. You know why? Because that didn't work. And it didn't work. It was the first film, and I had a big name as a writer, but the film came and it just sank everything because it's flop and it's so visible and you can't do anything. I had not made the movie. I had just given the rights and tried to make it happen. But it's, my name is there. If it sinks, everybody sinks. Now today, Kaipuche has done well. I'm also, yeah, Kaipuche has done well. But it's, when you lose big, right? Sometimes too radical for clients' comfort. Sometimes, especially when you're in a business where you are selling things, it's too much. You know, human beings are human beings. You push them too much. I've seen it, and I see this in when I try to change people's thinking and all. You tell them too much, even though you're right, they just get uncomfortable. And they're like, you know what, no, maybe let's try next year, right? And that's the technique of doing it. Sometimes I think the tip is to give them a conventional option and nudge them. People change, but they will change when you nudge them to change. You push them to change, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, especially in India, it will never happen. They'll change, like, if I tell you, go from here to there, you'll think twice. But I say, move little, like that it happens. So that's sometimes how, because it's about changing things, people will need, and you have to be very sensitive to that. Not like, oh, I have this brilliant idea, I know it's a great idea, everybody better listen to me and respect me. No, people will not, because it's a change. After it's successful, they will say, yeah, listen, we backed you, isn't it? Not so easily. They will take a time to get there. My strength today, like I said, I am not the best writer. I am not. But I am the best selling writer. There's a difference, right? And it comes a lot. And since this conference is about contact, and therefore that's the level I connected to this, which is a unique experience very few authors provide. Some authors actually believe that, you know, I want to sit by a stream and write, and that's what works best for them, and that's good. But like I said, my identity is not just that of a writer.